AITA for laughing at my sister's relationship troubles? I know I'm going to sound like the worst sibling alive, but I can't get the picture out of my head. My sister sobbing so hard that she almost dropped her phone, mascara running down her face, while I sat there biting my lip. And then it slipped out. I laughed. Not just a chuckle, a full, awkward laugh that echoed in the room. And she froze. Her face went pale like I had slapped her instead of laughed. That moment changed everything. You're probably already thinking I'm the villain, but hold on, because what happened next and what led to that laugh is not as simple as it looks. Even now, I can't tell if I was cruel or if I was just pushed to the edge after everything she put me through. Let me explain from the start. So, I have one older sister, Maya. We grew up close, but our relationship was always messy. She's the kind of person who's dramatic about everything. She could turn a missing hair tie into a household emergency. And when it came to boys, it was a whole different level of chaos. Maya had a string of boyfriends, and every single time, she'd swear this one is the love of her life. Then a few weeks later, we'd all hear the shouting, crying, and door slamming. My mom and I used to joke quietly about how she went through breakups like people go through seasons. But the latest boyfriend, Daniel, was different, or so Maya claimed. He brought him home for dinner one evening, and honestly, I could see why she thought he was special. He was tall, polite, had that calm energy that made you feel like he could survive a storm without blinking. My parents liked him, and I'll admit, I was even surprised. For once, it didn't look like she was chasing a bad boy. Things were quiet for a while. Too quiet, actually. Maya didn't storm into my room crying, she didn't blast sad music at 2 a.m., she didn't even roll her eyes at our mom's constant nagging. Instead, she'd sit on the couch with a goofy smile while texting him, or spend hours on calls whispering like the world had disappeared. For the first time, I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe she'll finally calm down. But, of course, peace doesn't last long in our house. The first crack showed up during a family barbecue. Maya and Daniel came over, and things seemed fine at first. But halfway through, while everyone was eating, I noticed Maya's smile drop. Daniel was chatting with my cousin about football, totally normal stuff, but Maya's eyes were sharp, following every word, every laugh. Later, when they went to the kitchen to get drinks, I overheard her hissing at him about how he didn't need to laugh that hard at another girl's jokes. It was awkward, painfully awkward. Daniel just stood there staring at her like he didn't even understand what he did wrong. That was the first time I saw the cracks. Fast forward 2 weeks and I started hearing the late-night phone fights. I sleep in the room next to her, so believe me, I didn't want to listen, but her voice carries. Things like, "You don't respect me. Why do you always choose your friends over me? If you loved me, you wouldn't make me feel like this." And then the sound of muffled crying, over and over. At first, I felt bad for her. I thought Daniel was hurting her somehow, maybe being shady. But then I accidentally saw some of their texts when she left her phone unlocked on the table. It wasn't Daniel being unkind, it was Maya demanding updates on where he was every hour, asking who he was with, and even sending paragraphs about how he should reassure her 10 times a day, not just once. I know snooping is wrong, but after months of sleepless nights hearing her scream at him through the walls, I couldn't help it. And that's when I realized Maya wasn't just heartbroken, she was obsessed. And here's where the story starts to twist. One evening, she came storming into my room, hair all messy, eyes red, saying, "I can't believe what he just did to me." She threw herself onto my bed, shaking. I paused my game and asked her what happened. She said Daniel had betrayed her trust because he didn't pick up her call while he was at work. At work! She knew his schedule, but still demanded he answer, and when he didn't, she spiraled. I remember staring at her thinking, this can't be real. I even asked her, "Maya, don't you think you're overreacting?" But she snapped at me, saying I didn't understand love, that I was too immature to know what heartbreak felt like. That night, they had their worst fight yet. I don't know the full details, but I could hear her screaming so loudly, I swear the neighbors must have heard. The next morning, she looked like she hadn't slept. She told me Daniel had broken her heart into a million pieces. And that's where it happened. She sat in the living room, mascara smudged, clutching her phone like it was the last thing keeping her alive. She was sobbing, telling me he had ended things and how she'd never love again. She looked so over the top, like a character in a bad movie. And I don't know why, but in that moment, after months of endless drama, I cracked. I laughed. She stopped crying instantly. Her head snapped up, her face. God, I'll never forget it. Hurt, betrayal, anger, all in one look. And then she whispered, "Did you just laugh at me?" When Maya asked me, "Did you just laugh at me?" the room went completely silent. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the ticking of the wall clock, even my own heartbeat hammering against my chest. I hadn't meant for her to hear it, at least not so clearly, but there was no way to take it back now. Her face changed in a way I'd never seen before. Her crying stopped instantly, like someone had flipped a switch. She sat up straighter, still clutching her phone, her swollen eyes locked on mine. I opened my mouth to explain, to say it wasn't what she thought, but she didn't give me the chance. She stood up so fast that the chair screeched across the floor. "You think this is funny?" she snapped. Her voice was hoarse, broken from all the sobbing, but the anger cut through it like glass. I froze. I wasn't sure if she was going to hit me or break something. For a second, I thought she might throw her phone at me. But instead, she stormed out of the living room and slammed her bedroom door so hard that the wall shook. At first, I felt guilty. My laughter was ugly, cruel even. But then another part of me, the part that had been kept up night after night by her screaming matches with Daniel, felt almost relieved. Like finally, someone had broken the cycle of her endless drama. I sat there for a while, not knowing what to do. The house stayed tense for the rest of the evening. My parents noticed, of course. My mom asked why Maya wasn't eating dinner, and I just shrugged. My dad gave me one of his "you better not be causing problems" looks, but I stayed quiet. I wasn't about to tell them I had laughed at my sister while she was crying over a breakup. But that night, the tension didn't fade. It exploded. Around 11 p.m., I heard her door creak open. I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone, when I noticed the faint glow of her room light against the hallway wall. Then her steps. Slow, heavy, coming toward my door. I sat up. She didn't knock. She just barged in. She stood there in her pajamas, face pale but her eyes dark, almost scary. She said, "You're supposed to be my sister. Do you know how much it hurts when the person you trust the most laughs at you?" I didn't know what to say. I muttered, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that." But she shook her head. "No, you think you're better than me. You think because I fall in love and get hurt that I'm pathetic." I tried to explain, but she cut me off. "I will make you understand what heartbreak feels like. Then you'll see if you still laugh." That sentence chilled me. I didn't know what she meant, but the look on her face was something I had never seen before. It wasn't just anger. It was something sharper, more dangerous. She left my room after that, slamming the door again. I stayed awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she meant. Would she try to embarrass me? Tell my parents lies about me? Sabotage me at school? The possibilities spun round in my head until I finally slept up. The next morning was strangely calm. Maya acted like nothing had happened. She came down to breakfast, greeted my parents, even cracked a smile when my dad made a lame joke about burnt toast. For a moment, I thought maybe this was the end of it. Maybe she would get over both Daniel and me and things would settle down. But then came the new storm. That night, as I was brushing my teeth, I heard her on the phone again. Only this time, it wasn't Daniel. It was one of her friends, and she was talking about me. My name came up over and over, followed by laughter that wasn't hers. I paused at the bathroom door, toothbrush still in my mouth, and listened. She laughed at me like I was trash, Maya told her friend. "Can you believe that? My own sister? Well, if she wants to laugh, I'll give her something to laugh about." There was more whispering, but I couldn't catch it all. Then I heard the friend's voice louder, saying, "You should do it. That would be so perfect." And then they both laughed. I stood frozen in the hallway, heart racing. My stomach dropped. What were they planning? I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Maya's voice again, repeating those words. "I'll give her something to laugh about." What did that mean? My brain wouldn't stop spinning, imagining every possible scheme she could come up with. By the time the sun rose, I was exhausted, jittery, and on edge. I didn't have to wait long to find out what she had planned. The next morning, when I got to school, I noticed people staring at me more than usual, whispering, giggling, looking my way, and then turning quickly. I thought maybe I had something on my face, but when I got to my locker, one of my friends came up to me, smirking. "Hey," he said, "did you really text that guy 10 times in a row last night, begging him not to ignore you? That's... wow." My stomach dropped. I didn't text anyone like that. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He pulled out his phone and showed me. There it was, a screenshot of a conversation that looked like it came from my number. Paragraphs of desperate texts begging some random boy to call me back. It looked pathetic, embarrassing. Everyone had seen it. And then it hit me. Maya. She must have made those fake screenshots and sent them around, maybe even posted them somewhere. It was exactly what she meant when she said she'd make me understand heartbreak. She was trying to humiliate me the way I had laughed at her. I could barely breathe. My face burned as I tried to explain to my friend it wasn't real, but he just gave me a doubtful look. Word travels fast in school, and by lunchtime, I knew the damage was done. People looked at me differently. Some whispered, some outright laughed. The extreme moment of seeing those screenshots still burned in my mind. But eventually, the day dragged on. By the time I got home, I was drained, completely wiped out. I went straight to my room and shut the door, trying to block out the world. The low of the day came when my mom called me and Maya down for dinner. We sat across from each other at the table. She ate her food slowly, not once glancing at me, but I could see the smirk tugging at the corners of her mouth. She knew exactly what she had done. My parents didn't notice anything unusual. They chatted about work, about groceries, about random things. I sat there silent, pushing food around my plate, while Maya hummed softly, satisfied. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell my parents what she had done, to expose her. But another part of me knew she'd deny it, twist it, and somehow make me look like the liar. So I stayed quiet. After dinner, I tried to calm myself down. I put on my headphones, played some music, and did my homework. For a moment, things felt normal again. I almost convinced myself that maybe it would blow over, that maybe the school would get bored and move on. But then came the next explosion. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Someone had tagged me in a post. My stomach tightened as I opened it. It was a meme page run by some students at my school. They had posted a side-by-side photo. On one side, me, laughing in a candid photo from last month's birthday party. On the other, the fake desperate texts Maya had made. The caption read, "She laughs at heartbreak, but cries for attention." Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments, people tagging each other, making jokes at my expense. I felt like the floor dropped beneath me. My face burned as I scrolled through the cruel comments. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I saw a familiar username in the comments. It was Maya's, and she had typed just 2 words, "Karma hits." That was the moment I realized she wasn't just trying to get back at me privately. She wanted the whole world to know. She wanted me destroyed. And that's where I'll stop this chapter, because the way I confronted her about that comment turned into a war that my whole family got dragged into. When I saw Maya's username under that Instagram post, something inside me snapped. It wasn't just a sibling prank anymore. This was full-on public humiliation, and she was enjoying every second of it. I stormed out of my room and pounded on her door so hard the whole hallway shook. "Open the door, Maya," I yelled. She didn't answer at first, but then the knob turned and she swung it open with the calmest, fakest smile I'd ever seen. "What's your problem?" she asked sweetly, like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. I shoved my phone in her face, the screen glowing with her comment. "Karma hits." "You did this," I said, my voice shaking. "You made those fake texts, you spread them, and now you're laughing while the whole school is tearing me apart." For a second, her smile flickered, but only for a second. Then she tilted her head, eyes glinting. "So what if I did? You laughed at me when my heart was breaking. Now you know how it feels." I couldn't believe it. She wasn't even denying it. My voice rose. "That's not the same, Maya. You're ruining my reputation over one mistake. You went too far." By this point, my yelling had drawn my parents. My mom rushed upstairs, my dad right behind her. "What is going on here?" my mom demanded. I was still holding my phone, shaking with anger. "She's been spreading lies about me at school. Look." I shoved the screen toward them. My dad squinted, confused, while my mom frowned. Maya, of course, slipped into her usual act. Tears welled in her eyes instantly, her lip trembling. "She's lying," she whispered, her voice soft and fragile. "I didn't beld my name." I couldn't believe it. She wasn't even denying it. My voice rose. "Because you hate me right now. Because you said you'd make me understand heartbreak." My parents stared at me like I'd just confessed to murder. My dad pinched the bridge of his nose and muttered, "Enough. Both of you go to your rooms. We'll sort this out tomorrow." That was it. They didn't believe me. Maya got away with it again? The extreme moment of that fight left me shaking for hours, but eventually the house went quiet again. I sat in my room, lights off, scrolling endlessly through the cruel comments while Maya laughed softly in hers. It was like we were living in 2 different worlds, mine filled with shame, hers filled with satisfaction. The next day was the calm after the storm. My parents acted like nothing happened. My mom cooked pancakes, my dad read the paper, and Maya floated around the kitchen humming like she was on vacation. I barely touched my food. I couldn't believe how easily she fooled them. At school, things weren't any better, but the gossip started to slow down a little bit. A new fight between 2 other students was stealing attention, and I thought maybe, just maybe, my nightmare would fade into the background. But then came the next explosion. That evening, I was in the living room when my dad's phone buzzed. He answered, his voice casual at first, but then it grew sharp. "Wait, what? Are you sure?" I looked up. His face was pale, his hand gripping the phone tight. My mom rushed over, asking what was wrong. When he hung up, he turned to me and said, "Why are people saying you've been sending inappropriate pictures to boys online?" I never... But then, he held up his phone. An email had been sent to my parents' account, attached with blurred screenshots that looked like they came from my phone. Fake. Completely fake. I spun around toward Maya. She was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, her face unreadable, but her eyes sparkled just enough for me to know. And that's where I'll end this chapter, because the fallout from those fake pictures didn't just stop with me. It dragged in my parents, my school, and eventually the entire family's reputation. When my dad showed me that email with the blurred screenshots, my body went cold. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. "Dad, that's not real," I pleaded. "I would never do that." But my parents looked horrified. My mom pressed her hand against her chest like she couldn't breathe. "Why would someone send this to us? Who would even have these?" And then my dad said the words that made me want to scream. "If this is true, we have a serious problem." "It's not true," I yelled, tears blurring my vision. "Maya is behind this. She's been spreading lies about me all week." I turned to her, desperate, hoping maybe she'd finally admit it. But Maya just widened her eyes in fake shock. "You can't seriously think I'd do something like that," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That's disgusting." I wanted to rip the mask off her face. I wanted to drag out every screenshot, every fake text, every smirk she'd thrown at me. But my parents didn't know the full picture, and Maya was a master at playing the victim. The extreme tension in that moment nearly broke me, but after hours of shouting, crying, and my parents debating what to do, the house finally fell into a heavy silence. They said we'd deal with it later. I sat in my room, staring at the ceiling. feeling like my whole life was falling apart. The next morning, things got worse. At school, I was called to the counselor's office. She sat across from me with a folder in her hands and a careful expression on her face. "We've received some concerning information about your online activity," she said gently. I swear my heart stopped. Maya's lies had gone beyond family. They had reached school. Now I wasn't just dealing with gossip. I was being investigated. I tried to explain everything, that I didn't send those messages, that my sister was the one faking all of it. But as the words tumbled out, I saw the same doubt in the counselor's eyes that I'd seen in my parents'. People didn't want to believe I was innocent because the evidence looked too real. That was the low of the chapter. Sitting in that office, feeling powerless, while my reputation and maybe even my future were being ripped apart by lies I couldn't disprove. When I got home, I was done being quiet. I stormed into Maya's room, my voice shaking with rage. "Why are you doing this to me?" I shouted. "What did I ever do that makes you hate me this much?" She didn't even look up from her phone at first. When she finally did, she said calmly, "You laughed at me. That's all it took." I stared at her, disbelief flooding me. "You destroyed my life over one laugh?" Her smirk returned. "Now you know how it feels to have your pain mocked. Maybe next time you'll think twice before treating me like a joke." That was it. That was the breaking point. I lost it. I grabbed her phone out of her hand before she could react, scrolling frantically. And there it was. Proof. Hidden in her photo gallery were the edited screenshots she'd been using against me. The fake conversations, the fake pictures, all neatly stored in a folder she thought no one would ever see. She lunged at me, screaming, trying to snatch the phone back, but I ran. I bolted straight to my parents in the living room, Maya chasing me down the stairs, both of us shouting. I shoved the phone into my dad's hands and yelled, Look at what she's been doing to me." For the first time, my parents actually listened. My dad scrolled through the files, his face hardening with each swipe. My mom gasped, covering her mouth. Maya kept screaming that it wasn't what it looked like, that I had framed her, but this time they didn't believe her. The explosion that followed ripped through the house like a storm. My dad grounded Maya on the spot, taking her phone away, while my mom yelled at her for lying and dragging the family into humiliation. Maya burst into tears, screaming that I deserved it, that I never supported her and always looked down on her. It was chaos. But for once, I wasn't the one being doubted. For once, the truth was finally out. The fallout didn't end that night. My parents had to meet with the school to clear my name, and Maya had to confess to what she'd done. Her reputation took the hit she had been trying to throw at me. Friends stopped trusting her. People whispered about her instead of me. And even though part of me felt relief, another part of me couldn't shake the heaviness. Because no matter how much justice I got, one fact remained. My own sister had tried to ruin my life over a laugh. And that's the end of the story. So am I the AITA for laughing at my sister's relationship troubles? Or was Maya the one who went too far?